Welcome back, Seth Bling here. And today I want to show you a new speedrun of sorts. This one is a really weird one. First of all, I need to thank Mally, who discovered this glitch in Super Mario Bros. 3 that made this run possible. Also, Mr. Cheese, who did a bunch of research to help make this route possible. Here you can see me starting a new game of Super Mario Bros. 3 and then immediately saving and quitting. So this is a speedrun of Super Mario Bros. 3, but there will be almost zero Super Mario Bros. 3 gameplay. All right, what's going on here? So this is a cartridge for Super Nintendo called Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. A lot of people are familiar with Super Mario All-Stars. It's basically a re-release of all the NES Super Mario games. Super Mario Bros. 1, The Lost Levels, which was also Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, Super Mario Bros. 2, the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3 was also on the cartridge. So those games are, sort of traditionally known as the Super Mario All-Stars games. They also released a version of the Super Mario All-Stars cartridge that had Super Mario World on it, and that's the one I'm playing on. And so the idea of this run is that I start a new game of Super Mario Bros. 3 on an empty save file, and then immediately save and quit. This sort of creates the new save file that's not quite empty, but doesn't really have much in it. And then I go and create a new save file in Super Mario World, which is what you're watching here. And I will basically, glitch out the game like I always do in Super Mario World and corrupt the save file, the Super Mario Bros. 3 save file that I created. And I'm going to corrupt it by writing 4 items into the item bar. These are glitched items, which you normally could not obtain. And then I will go back to Super Mario Bros. 3, and I will use one of those glitch items to run arbitrary code, and that code will be contained in the other 3 glitched items. So it'll basically run 3 bytes of arbitrary code, and as you'll see later, that will beat the game really fast. It's going to jump to credits, pretty much. So is this a speedrun of Super Mario Bros. 3? I'm playing almost zero Super Mario Bros. 3. It's an interesting question. It's more of a question than you might think. First, let me just call out that I'm doing power-up incrementation here. This is a glitch which uses basically how terrible they programmed Yoshi and those brown platforms. Actually spawn 2 Yoshis there. You get rid of one Yoshi with a sprite in its mouth, and then the other Yoshi has a null sprite in its mouth, and then there's actually 2 copies of Yoshi while you're on this platform, and you corrupt the stack, and the return address is somewhere that we control, where it'll go run some misaligned code. Anyway, the end story is that Mario's power-up state gets incremented. That's why we call it power-up incrementation. So instead of power-up states 0, 1, 2, or 3, which is small, big, cape, or flower, here we have 4, and then in a moment, power-up state 5. And so these are normally unattainable power-up states, and when you collect a 1-up in power-up state 5, basically the game doesn't know what to do, and so it starts running code from somewhere, and that somewhere happens to be RAM. So here I'm just like setting up some memory that needs to be set up by killing that green shell in a certain spot and stuff like that. But basically, I'm going to be setting up the sprite x coordinate table by spitting out 3 red shells at pixel perfect x coordinates. And when I do that, and then collect the 1-up, it's going to run that x coordinate table as code. And we'll see that in a minute here. Basically, that'll put my power-up state to hexadecimal 15, which currently it's 5, so it'll go from 5 to 15. Hexadecimal power-up state 15 behaves a lot like power-up state 5, except instead of just collecting a 1-up to trigger the arbitrary code, you can collect a mushroom. And also, by collecting the mushroom, you get another mushroom. And so you use select to get that mushroom that's in you can see at the top of the screen, I have that mushroom in the reserve box. I'll be able to repeatedly drop a mushroom on Mario and collect the mushroom to trigger arbitrary code. And I'll do that 4 times to write the 4 bytes of the glitched out items into the save file of SMB3. So that's sort of how the Super Mario World glitching part works. Here's the first arbitrary code execution. Notice that Mario changed colors. Now he looks like the Green Goblin, I guess. This is power up state hexadecimal 15. And so, yeah, there's going to be some more shell spits and stuff to set up the code, some other little memory manipulation tricks. Okay, so basically, whether or not this counts as a Super Mario Bros. 3 speedrun is super up for debate, and I think it's totally reasonable to not count it. I've asked the Super Mario Bros. 3 community what they think, and there's some mixed responses. You know, and normally in a speedrun of a game, especially in any percent speedrun, sort of anything that's on the game cartridge is in bounds, right? You can use any resources at your disposal as long as you aren't like switching game cartridges. This game is a little different though, right? It's actually 5 games built into a single cartridge. So does it count? I am doing all the setup within the allotted time. Basically, all the save files are cleared. There's no setup done before the timer starts. All the setup is done after the timer starts. Create new save files to verify that there's nothing like already contained in those save files, anything like that. So here you can see the 4 bytes. Actually, if you look at the top right of the screen, you'll see me press buttons on the second controller. And so this extra controller basically will control what values get written 4 bytes in a row. And so I'm pressing different combinations of buttons on the second controller each time I collect that mushroom. And so that controls the 4 bytes that get written into Super Mario Bros. 3. And here I just save and quit, go back into Super Mario Bros. 3, that save file I created and then subsequently corrupted. And I'll basically use one of the glitched out items to run the other 3 as code. The other 3, the bytes of code basically jump somewhere into ROM, somewhere into the actual Super Mario Bros. 3 game code that sets 2 flags. And here we can see I've already gotten into the credits. It sets 2 flags. One of those flags says whenever you're playing a level, immediately clear the level. And the level is if you've beat it. And then the other flag says next time you beat a level, play the credits. And so we just run that code, enter the level, it immediately clears the level and then plays the credits. And so that is actually arbitrary code. That's an arbitrary code exploit that is happening in Super Mario Bros. 3. That's what MacLeod discovered. He discovered how to actually make that arbitrary code happen. And that makes this credits warp possible. So this is the first arbitrary code glitch that I know of in Super Mario Bros. 3 on Super Mario All-Stars. So the time I got here is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. This is not the overall world record for Super Mario Bros. 3, no matter how you slice it, because you can complete the game in about 3 minutes on the NES. By using an arbitrary code exploit that doesn't work, a version of the arbitrary code exploit that doesn't work on the Super Nintendo. It only works on NES. So this is, almost 4 minutes short of the world record, or I guess too long. It's not a world record in the game, but it is sort of a world record for Super Mario Bros. 3 on Super Nintendo in Super Mario All-Stars. The leaderboard doesn't currently split them out as like separate categories or anything. You do label your run with which platform you played the game on. And so there is a filter you can select to drop down to see like runs on Super Nintendo versus runs on NES. So I've talked to the SMB3 community a little bit about this, and there's some sort of mixed reactions. Like some people think, well, this probably really shouldn't go on the Super Mario Bros. 3 leaderboard since you're not really playing Super Mario Bros. 3. There's other opinions that any percent of a speedrun is doing anything you can to beat the game. And since this is all stuff on the game cartridge that the game comes on, it's all sort of fair game. And but this probably shouldn't go alongside the NES version because they're very different. They're very different routes, right? It's a very different way to trigger arbitrary code and trigger the credits. Up until now, the 2 games have been side by side on leaderboards because the way that you play the game on NES and Super Nintendo is not really different. But now that I've done this run, if it's to be considered a valid SMB3 speedrun, that might merit actually separating out a new leaderboard for Super Mario All-Stars versus NES versions of the game. Here you can see I've reloaded that save file. I still have those items in my save file, and I can re-trigger that arbitrary code and re-enter level 1 and just trigger the credits again. So it's kind of cool that it's now permanently saved in that save file until you like delete the save file or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I sort of did this speed run because it was so weird and because it sort of stretches the bounds of what do we think of as a speed run? What's a completion of a game? And so I really wanted this sort of philosophical discussion of what counts as beating a game. And I think it's a fun one. I don't really care that much whether it gets on the leaderboards or not. Like, it's totally fine if just the consensus is this is not a completion of Super Mario Brothers 3, and it's just a cool run I did, I guess. There are some other implications for this. So there is a Super Mario All-Stars leaderboard, and it has a speedrun category for completion of all 5 games, and you're able to choose the order that you play the 5 games. Basically, that speedrun assumes sort of normal completions of the games. You can use warp whistles and whatever, but you shouldn't like do major sequence breaks. Like credits warp is not allowed for Super Mario World. I think there is potential for an interesting speedrun category, which would be sort of like a true any percent for Super Mario All-Stars, all 5 games, where you use Super Mario World to sort of glitch out the save files for the other games and play in big fat air quotes all 5 games really, really fast. And yeah, like I said, it'd be like a sort of a true any percent of the speedrun of all 5 games. And that one would be, I think, a little bit more legitimate since Super Mario World is one of the 5 games that you would play. And so you would just choose it as the first one in the order, and you're glitching out the other 4 games while playing Super Mario World. And that's sort of like, I think that makes a lot more sense. The other implication here is if you do think this is a valid completion of Super Mario Brothers 3, it's not a big impact on the Super Mario Brothers 3 community because, like I said, the any percent record for this game is about 3 minutes. But this sort of technique could be used for the other games in Super Mario All-Stars. And specifically, I think it is very feasible to get times in the Lost Levels and Super Mario Brothers 2 that would be faster than any other completion of those games on any speedrun leaderboard. There's no credits warps known for those games. Not achievable by a human. So this technique could be used to say set the world, last world completed in this SMB3 save file to world 7, and then be able to skip straight to world 7 rather than playing the game to get to world 7. And likewise for Lost Levels, you could start the game at level 8-4 and then just play 8-4 and complete it. And I think it'd be pretty fast to set up those save file corruptions. So if you do consider this a valid any percent completion of a game, then you could probably get world records in those 2 games. And I think I will probably be attempting those speedruns and letting the communities decide how they want to handle it. Maybe it's best to split off the games since, playing Super Mario Brothers 2 on NES versus Super Mario Brothers 2 on Super Mario All-Stars, there are actually separate leaderboards already. In Super Mario All-Stars, you can sort of get to World 4 through world warping, and then save and quit and go to World 3, which lets you actually get to World 7 faster. I think I might have those world numbers wrong. But anyway, the point is that by saving and quitting, selecting a slightly earlier world actually lets you warp to the end game slightly faster, just because of how the world layout and all the warps layout works. So Super Mario Brothers 2 already has separate categories for NES and Super Mario All-Stars. I think that there's potential to create a new category in Super Mario Brothers 2 for Super Mario any percent on Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World or something like that. It certainly wouldn't invalidate the actual gameplay of Super Mario Brothers 2 that people do, but it might be a new category. Anyway, it's interesting to think about, and that's sort of why I really wanted to do this run. It sort of opens a whole can of worms that I think is just really fun. Other people might find it to be a headache, but not me. So yeah, once again, I want to thank Mally, who discovered that SMB3 corrupted item bar glitch, and then Mr. Cheese did a bunch of research to make this route possible. He figured out how like the save file checksums work, and he found that code that we could jump to in ROM that would set those 2 flags in Super Mario Bros. 3. So really, I would not have been able to do this without them. All I really did was just figured out the Super Mario World route to actually corrupt the save file. But all the work in Super Mario Bros. 3 was done by those guys. So that's about it. Thanks for watching.